Tom walked into the Mercedes dealership with a smile on his face. He'd just received a promotion. His salary had jumped to £65,000, and after years of driving a beaten-up Volkswagen, he felt he'd earned something nice. The salesman showed him a gorgeous C-Class leak, modern, loaded with technology. The price, £42,000. Tom did some quick mental math. He could afford the £650 monthly payment. He signed the paperwork that afternoon, drove off, feeling like he'd finally made it, and posted a photo on Instagram with the caption, "New whip." 6 months later, Tom was sitting at his kitchen table at 2 a.m., staring at spreadsheets with growing horror. The car payment was manageable, sure, but insurance had cost him £1,800 for the year, triple what he'd paid on his old VW. Road tax was £600. He'd already spent £400 on 2 services. Tires would need replacing soon, another £800. And the car had depreciated £6,000 in just 6 months. He'd poured £10,000 into this vehicle in half a year, and that didn't even include the petrol. Tom realized with sickening clarity that his dream car was systematically destroying his finances. He'd made one of the biggest financial mistakes of his life, and he was locked into it for 5 more years. Tom's story isn't unique. Right now, across Britain, America, and Europe, millions of people are making the exact same mistake. They're walking into dealerships, seduced by glossy brochures and smooth sales pitches, and signing up for financial disasters disguised as car loans. And in 2025, this mistake is more costly than it's ever been. Because here's what the automotive industry doesn't want you to know. Buying a new car in 2025 isn't just a bad financial decision, it's financial self-sabotage. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why. Let's start with the most obvious problem. Depreciation. Everyone knows cars depreciate, but most people dramatically underestimate how much value evaporates the moment you drive off the lot. The industry rule of thumb used to be that a new car loses about 20% of its value in the first year. That was bad enough. But in 2025, the depreciation curve has become absolutely savage. According to data from CapHPI, the UK's leading automotive valuation experts, new cars in 2025 are losing an average of 28% of their value in the first year. That's not a typo. 28%. If you buy a £35,000 car today, it'll be worth £25,200 in 12 months. You've lost £9,800 just by owning it. That's £816 per month in depreciation alone, before you've paid a single penny in insurance, fuel, or maintenance. In America, Kelley Blue Book reports similar numbers. New vehicles are depreciating 25 to 30% in year 1, depending on the make and model. But it gets worse. Year 3. That £35,000 car you bought new is now worth approximately £19,000. You've lost £16,000 in 36 months. That's £444 per month in pure, evaporated value. To put that in perspective, you could rent a luxury flat in many UK cities for that money. Instead, you've set it on fire to own a rapidly depreciating asset. And here's the kicker. If you finance that car with a typical PCP deal, you've probably paid around £15,000 in payments over those 3 years, but the car is depreciated by £16,000. You're literally losing money faster than you're paying it off. The RAC Foundation published research in late 2024 showing that the average new car buyer in the UK loses £12,600 in depreciation over the first 3 years of ownership. £12,600. That's money that's gone forever, contributing nothing to your net worth, building no equity, creating no future value. It's just gone. Compare that to buying a 3-year-old car that's already absorbed that depreciation hit. That same vehicle that cost £35,000 new and is now £19,000 used will only depreciate another £5,000 to £6,000 over the next 3 years. You've saved yourself £10,000 in depreciation by simply letting someone else take the initial hit. But depreciation is just the beginning. Let's talk about what you're actually paying for that new car. The average new car price in the UK in 2025 is £36,400. In America, it's $49,500. These aren't luxury vehicles, these are average transaction prices across all segments. A decade ago, those numbers were £24,000 and $33,000 respectively. Prices have increased 50%, while wages have grown maybe 15 to 20%. The math simply doesn't work anymore. And because cars are so expensive, almost nobody pays cash. According to the Finance and Leasing Association, 91% of new cars in the UK are purchased using some form of finance. In America, Experian reports that 85% of new cars are financed. So let's look at what financing actually costs you. Take that £36,400 average car. Most people put down a £3,000 to £4,000 deposit and finance the rest, with interest rates in 2025 averaging 7 to 9% for car loans. You're looking at a 5-year loan of around £640 per month. Over 5 years, you'll pay £38,400 in total. That's £6,000 in interest alone. You're paying £42,400 for a car that costs £36,400 and will be worth maybe £12,000 when you finish paying it off. Let's break down what you actually pay in month 1 of owning that new car. Your £640 loan payment, obviously. Insurance in the UK for a newish car averages £800 to £1,200 per year, so let's call it £85 per month. Road tax is roughly £180 annually for most cars, another £15 per month. You'll need to service it at least once a year, £200 to £400, so £25 per month averaged out. Fuel costs vary wildly, but if you're doing average mileage of 7,400 miles per year at current petrol prices, you're looking at around £120 per month. That's £885 per month before we even get 2 tires, repairs, parking, tolls, or any unexpected costs. And remember, £444 of value is evaporating every month through depreciation that first year. So the true cost of that new car is £1,329 per month in year 1, nearly £16,000 for the first year alone. The Office for National Statistics reports that median household income in the UK is around £32,300 before tax. After tax, that's roughly £26,500 or £2,208 per month. You're spending 60% of your take-home pay on a car. That's not transportations. That's financial suicide. But I need a reliable car, people argue. New cars don't break down. I'm avoiding repair costs. This is perhaps the most insidious myth the automotive industry has ever sold. Yes, new cars are more reliable than old ones, obviously. But the cost of that reliability is absurd. Let's compare. You could buy a 3-year-old car for £19,000 instead of a new one for £36,400. That's a £17,400 saving up front, even if that used car needs £2,000 in repairs over the next 3 years, which is quite high for a well-maintained 3-year-old vehicle. Still £15,400. Better off. You could replace the entire engine and transmission and still come out ahead. Consumer Reports analyzed maintenance costs across vehicle lifespans and found that the average car costs about £1,200 in maintenance and repairs between years 4 to 6 of its life. Compare that to the £16,000 depreciation hit on a new car in its first 3 years. You're paying 13 times more for newness than you'd pay for repairs on a slightly used vehicle. The reliability argument is a con. Yes, you might occasionally need to fix something, but those repairs are pocket change compared to the depreciation you're avoiding. And then there's insurance. Insurance companies aren't stupid. They know exactly what cars are worth, and they charge accordingly. A brand new £36,000 car will cost you £1,000 to £1,500 to insure in the UK. That same model 3 years old and worth £19,000, about £600 to £800. You're paying an extra £300 to £700 per year just to insure a newer version of the same car. Over 5 years, that's £1,500 to £3,500 in additional insurance costs, purely because you wanted new. In America, the difference is even starker. AAA reports that insuring a new car costs on average 60% more than insuring a 5-year-old equivalent. Let's talk about finance traps, because this is where people really get destroyed. The most popular way to buy new cars in the UK is through PCP, personal contract purchase. Sounds reasonable, right? You pay a deposit, make monthly payments, and at the end you can either pay a final balloon payment to own the car or hand it back and get a new one. Sounds flexible. It's actually a financial prison designed to keep you perpetually in debt. Here's how it works. You put down £3,000 on a £35,000 car. You pay £400 per month for 3 years, totaling £14,400 in payments. At the end, The car is worth £19,000 in theory, and your balloon payment is £17,000. But you've only paid off £17,400 of the car's value over 3 years, and it's depreciated to £19,000. So there's barely any equity. Most people can't afford the £17,000 balloon payment, so they trade it in for another new car, putting their tiny bit of equity toward the deposit, and the cycle starts again. They're trapped in permanent car payments, never actually owning anything. The Finance and Leasing Association's data shows that 89% of people who finish a PCP agreement immediately start another one. They're not buying cars, they're renting them indefinitely at inflated prices. And the finance companies love this because they make interest on the loan, they make money on the balloon payment, and they get the car back to sell again. You're the perpetual loser in this arrangement. Here's what kills me. People defend this by saying, "But I get a new car every 3 years." Congratulations, you've turned transportation into a subscription service where you're permanently paying and never building equity. You know what else you could do? Buy a 3-year-old car for cash or a short loan, drive it for 8 years, and actually own something. After 8 years, your net worth is higher because you own an asset. With PCP, after 8 years, you've made 96 monthly payments and own nothing. You've paid someone else's depreciation costs 3 times over. The opportunity cost of buying new is staggering when you actually calculate it. Let's say you're deciding between buying a new £36,000 car or a 3-year-old version for £19,000. That's a £17,000 difference. If you invested that £17,000 in a basic index fund, averaging 7% annual return, its conservative historic light would grow to approximately £30,400 after 10 years. After 20 years, it would be worth £65,700. After 30 years, £129,400. You're not just losing £17,000 by buying new, you're losing the compounded future value of that money. The true cost of buying that new car is over £100,000 in lifetime wealth. Martin Lois, the UK's most trusted consumer finance expert, has repeatedly said that buying a new car is one of the worst financial decisions most people make. He's calculated that someone who buys a used car instead of new and invests the difference throughout their working life will retire with £250,000 to £400,000 more in their pension pot. That's the difference between a comfortable retirement and a struggling one, all because of car buying decisions in your 30s and 40s. But here's where it gets really insidious. Car manufacturers and dealers know all of this. They know depreciation is brutal. They know financing is expensive. They know new cars a terrible value, and they've built an entire marketing machine to make you ignore these facts. They sell you lifestyle, status, and emotion. The advertisements never show you depreciation curves or total cost of ownership. They show you attractive people on mountain roads, advanced technology, and the promise of success. They're selling a fantasy, and it costs £40,000. Dealerships are trained to focus you on monthly payments, never total cost. It's only £450 a month. Sounds manageable. They don't tell you that's £27,000 over 5 years for a car that will be worth £8,000 at the end. They don't show you that you could lease a nice flat for that money. They certainly don't compare it to buying used. Their entire incentive structure is built around maximizing the sale price. And that means new cars with expensive finance packages. The depreciation on new cars has gotten so bad that even traditionally stable brands are plummeting in value. Mercedes, BMW Audi cars that used to hold value reasonably well are now depreciating 30 to 40% in 3 years. Luxury electric vehicles are even worse. A £70,000 Tesla Model S loses £35,000 in 3 years. That's £1,000 per month. Evaporating. The more expensive the car, the more money you lose. It's inverse financial logic. The more you spend, the poorer you become. And let's address the elephant in the room. Most people buying new cars can't actually afford them. The average UK new car buyer puts down 15% deposit and finances the rest over 5 to 6 years. They're not wealthy people buying toys, they're middle-income people stretching their budgets to breaking point. The Money Advice Trust reported that 1 in 8 people in the UK have missed a car finance payment in the last year. That's 12.5% of car owners struggling to afford their vehicles. Car loans are the second highest source of consumer debt problems after mortgages. In America, it's worse. The average car loan term is now 68 months, nearly 6 years. 20% of car loans are now for 73 to 84 months. That's 7 years. You're paying off a depreciating asset for 7 years. By year 5, you owe more than the car is worth. You're underwater. And if you need to sell or trade it in, you have to come up with cash to cover the negative equity before you can even get out. It's a debt trap, and millions are caught in it. The alternative is simple but unglamorous. Buy a car that's 3 to 5 years old. Pay cash or finance it for 2 to 3 years maximum. Drive it for 8 to 10 years, and actually own something. A well-maintained car from a reliable manufacturer will easily run for 150,000 miles with basic maintenance. That's 20 years of driving for most people. Buy a 3-door Toyota or Honda for £15,000. Drive it for 15 years, and your total cost of ownership is a fraction of buying new every few years. But this requires patience, discipline, and ignoring social pressure. You don't get the new car smell. You don't get the latest tech. Your Instagram post doesn't get as many likes. And that's exactly what the industry counts on, that your ego is more powerful than your financial sense. They've successfully convinced people that their self-worth is tied to their car's age. It's brilliant marketing and terrible life advice, which brings us to 2025 specifically. Why is buying new particularly bad right now? Several reasons. First, prices are at all-time highs with no signs of declining. The industry has successfully reset consumer expectations upward. Second, interest rates are 7 to 9%, meaning financing is more expensive than it's been in 15 years. Third, the used car market has stabilized at reasonable prices after the COVID chaos. You can now get genuinely good deals on 3 to 5-year-old cars because supply has normalized. The value gap between new and used has never been wider, making the financial case for used stronger than ever. Fourth, we're in a technology transition period. Electric vehicles are improving rapidly. Charging infrastructure is expanding, and regulations are tightening. If you buy a new petrol car in 2025, you're buying into a declining technology. That car will be worth less in 5 years than similar cars from previous years because the market will have shifted toward EVs. You're catching a falling knife. Meanwhile, buying a 3 to 5-year-old petrol car means you're getting mature, reliable technology at a discount, and you'll drive it through the transition period without taking the depreciation hit on either end. Tom, that guy with a Mercedes. At the start, he eventually did the math we just walked through. He realized his £42,000 car was costing him £1,400 per month all in, and would be worth maybe £18,000 when he finished paying it off. He was going to spend £75,000 over 5 years to own a £18,000 asset. He made a hard decision. He sold the car at £8,000 loss, took out a small personal loan to cover the negative equity, and bought a 2019 Honda Accord for £16,000 cash. His total monthly car costs dropped to £350. He'll pay off that personal loan in 18 months, and then he'll be driving for free while his old Mercedes payment goes into investments. In 10 years, he'll have an extra £180,000 in net worth. So here's the bottom line. In 2025, buying a new car is financial self-sabotage. You're paying maximum price for maximum depreciation. Higing terrorist expensive insurance, and technology you don't need. You're locking yourself into debt to own a rapidly depreciating asset that does the exact same job as a car that costs half as much. You're sacrificing hundreds of thousands in lifetime wealth for temporary ego gratification, and a new car smell that fades in 6 weeks. The automotive industry has spent billions convincing you that new cars are aspirational, that you deserve one, that monthly payments are normal. They're lying. They don't care about your financial future. They care about their profit margins. And those margins are built on your poor decisions. Every new car sold is a victory for their shareholders and a defeat for your net worth. So what should you do? Buy a 3 to 5-year-old car from a reliable brand. Pay cash if possible. Finance for 3 years maximum, if not. Get a pre-purchase inspection. Check the service history. Drive it for 10 to 15 years. Invest the difference. But in 20 years, when you're financially secure and they're still making car payments, you'll understand that the real flex was always being smart enough to not fall for the con. Buying a new car in 2025 isn't a financial decision, it's a financial mistake.